thank you for observing all protocol previously. It is truly my honor to welcome all of you to our fine event center. Discussions like these are critical to our functioning democracy, and you have my appreciation for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us here today. To those of you that don't know, there are 3 legacy newsrooms, institutions of this country, that sit just 1 floor down from here. Namely, Business Day, Sunday Times, and Sowetan. As some people in this room will attest, what we publish is not always universally popular. Indeed, you will invariably not always like or agree with what we write, but that truthfully is how it should be. In a thriving society, there should always exist a healthy tension between the press, government, business, and civil society. What is important is that we have unity of purpose. That is the paradoxical nature of our relationship. Even when we're at odds, our desired objective remains the same. And that is certainly the case for today's theme. I must declare an interest here. I am Joburg, born and bred through and through. I have been blessed to have a career that has taken me across the country and across the world. But always I return here to the city and to this province. It's the people that make this place so special. They are as resilient as they are innovative. Emboldened by the right support and an intentional strategy, they and we can achieve something truly astounding. It is my pleasure to open this event and have it handed over to our program director. Thank you very much.
So my name is Lebogang Maile, and I'm the MEC for Finance and Economic Development. I'm supposed to set the scene. Let me just acknowledge and maybe I must also indicate that the Premier will leave immediately after speaking, because as you know, today we've got one of the biggest events in the sporting world, the Leaf Golf Tournament, which we are hosting as a province. And it's one of those important events in the calendar of our country, but it's also one of those events which demonstrates our intention to host big events and boost our economy. So as we launch the economic plan, we are not just talking about what we want to do, but we are already doing. So the Leaf Golf Tournament is one of those important events, and that's why even in his dress code. So I know so let me explain all those, because I know that sometimes in South Africa, because sometimes we get bored, we talk about everything, so, and complain, and yet we've got lots of problems. So someone might write that the Premier does not even take the economic plan serious. He was not even properly dressed. No, it's not because of that, it's because of the event that is going to. I'm not going to be long, because I'm just setting up the scene. I've already welcomed the program director, welcoming the Premier of the province, the Director General of our province, the MECs that are here present. I saw 2, MEC Bota, responsible for environment in our province, and MEC Mutara, responsible for human settlement. The heads of departments were here today, so 2, one for economic development and one for the provincial treasury. We also have CEOs of our different agencies who are here. We've got senior managers of Gauteng provincial government. We've got, I saw representatives of the Youth Advisory Council, the representatives of the World Bank, UNICA and UNIDA, the representatives of the Standard Bank, which is our provincial banker, the former statistician general, Dr. Leotla, our academic partners from the University of Pretoria, Wits University, the University of South Africa, Tshwane University of Technology, the University of Johannesburg, and the broader academia, the leaders of business, labor, and civil society, special guests, members of the media, the leadership of Arena, the MD, thanks for hosting us and for partnering with us. It is an honor indeed and privilege to stand before you this afternoon, or rather this morning, on the auspicious launch of the Gauteng City Region Economic Development Plan. The launch of this plan takes place during a month that honors the struggle for democracy, promoting constitutional rights, equality, and human dignity. Human Rights Month is a critical month in South Africa's calendar. It serves as a reminder of the sacrifices made during the struggle against apartheid and highlights the ongoing work to protect human rights today. And above all, it reinforces the Bill of Rights, a cornerstone of our Constitution, which guarantees equality, dignity, and freedom for all people in South Africa. The theme for this year's Human Rights Month is defending our sovereignty and democratic gains. It is a profound theme that focuses on reinforcing human rights through social justice and aligning with the 30th anniversary of the Constitution's adoption. The decision to launch the Gauteng City Region Economic Development Plan during this month is not an accident of history. It is an affirmation of our recognition of the direct link between human rights and inclusive economic development. The starting point of our presentation is in defining what the Gauteng City Region is, for there is a common misunderstanding that it only encompasses the Gauteng province's major cities, especially Johannesburg, Tshwane, and Ekurhuleni. This is not the case. The Gauteng City Region extends beyond the boundaries of the Gauteng province. It is a wider urban region of smaller centers and population concentrations across the provinces of Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Northwest, and Free State. Thus, the Gauteng City Region is an integrated cluster of cities, towns, and urban nodes that together make up the economic heartland of South Africa. This region is of the country, in fact, this region generates more than 45% of South Africa's gross domestic product and is a functionally integrated urban economy focused on finance, manufacturing, mining, agriculture, and innovation. It also serves as the nation's premier industrial and financial hub. In comparative perspective, the Gauteng City Region offers higher levels of access to essential household and business infrastructure, greater proximity to urban amenities, and generally better standards of living. So we are not talking about Gauteng as a province. This is very important. And that's why even how we act, and when you look at our plan, we're not planning for Gauteng, but we're planning for the entire region. Because if you talk about Rustenburg, you talk about Secunda, you talk about Sasol, you can name them. They are not far from Gauteng. They are just here. So if you plan, you can't ignore them. So for this reason, the region, a growing pole of attraction for migrants from South Africa and beyond, and it's a point that we all know. And the Gauteng province has the highest number of international migrants in South Africa. As the nation's economic hub, it attracts a disproportionate share of foreign-born individuals, with a population of international migrants slightly higher than all other provinces combined. The entrance of newcomers gives it an increasingly cosmopolitan character and vibrant social and economic life. This informs its dynamic character and unique demographic character. Despite its importance, the Gauteng City Region faces many challenges. And these include high levels of poverty, unemployment, and structural inequalities. High levels of poverty and unemployment persist, creating a high cost of living and limiting economic opportunities for the growing population. So the city region, with its history as the industrial nerve center of the colonial and apartheid economies, is also confronted with persistent spatial inequalities. This is evidenced in the reality that the residents in township areas faces high transport costs and poor access to economic hubs, which perpetuates poverty. The relative opportunities that the city region provides do not come without challenges. It is the fastest growing economic region in South Africa, with a population growth rate above the national average. Every year, the Gauteng province alone sees a population increase of roughly 250,000 people, while this contributes to its dynamism, especially given that many of those coming in are young people. It puts immense pressure on housing and resources, leading to a proliferation of informal settlements and many other problems. The impact is noticeable across the city region. The region is struggling with dilapidated infrastructure, frequent water shortage, load reduction and struggling sewage systems, road infrastructure, and industrial pollution. All these challenges gives rise to rising crime and social insecurity. So the Gauteng city region is confronted with high levels of crime, illegal mining, vandalism, particularly in urban centers. It is against this background that the Gauteng provincial government adopted the Gauteng City Region Economic Growth and Development Plan 2030. This plan signals a shift from policy formulation to focused implementation-driven action. It establishes a coordinated provincial framework designed to accelerate inclusive growth, drive industrial expansion, and support job creation across the Gauteng city region. By enhancing collaboration across the city region, the plan strengthens alignment between provincial governments and municipalities through an integrated approach that affirms the position of Gauteng as the country's primary economic engine. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is crucial that government responsibilities are distributed in this way. The Gauteng city region is extremely complex and dynamic, which makes it impossible for one government authority to possibly encompass the whole. To address the region's challenges and ensure that it reaches its full potential, the different parts of government must work together. Improved intergovernmental cooperation and greater collaboration between government, business and civil society is essential for ensuring that the cities and towns stretching across and beyond the boundaries of the Gauteng province can work better as a more integrated, productive and sustainable whole. The plan which the Premier will comprehensively elaborate on. So I was not giving you the plan. I was just setting the scene in case you are asking, what is the plan? So the Premier will comprehensively elaborate on, and the other speakers as well. So it also outlines a targeted 5-year implementation program to be executed in collaboration with the Gauteng provincial government departments, the municipalities, academic institutions, and industry partners. This coordinated approach is designed to accelerate provincial economic performance and drive meaningful contribution to sustained GDP growth by 2030. Linked to the plan, we have also developed sector plans for 11 high growth sectors. These sectors include ICT and digital services, transport and logistics, cultural and creative industries, agro-processing, mining, green economy and energy, clothing, textile, leather and footwear, aerospace and defense, pharmaceutical and medical devices, automotive and tourism. These sectors attract significant venture capital and require skilled labor. Thus, they did not only expand faster than others because of the rising demand for their products and services, but they also contribute significantly to job creation, which creates multiplier effects in the city region and broader national economy. Today, we will also be launching these industry-led action labs, whose objective is to advance the plan with the partnerships and collaboration with the private sector, academia, and civil society. These action labs signal a move from state-centric implementation in collaborative governance using sector master plans. And HOD of our department will then provide further elaboration on the labs and their importance to the economic growth prospects of the Gauteng city region. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish to conclude this input by emphasizing the significance of growing the economy of the Gauteng city region, which is the nerve center of the national economy. For the Gauteng provincial government, growing the economy is not simply a question of money. It is fundamentally a question of ensuring that the economy grows in the hands of the people. For this reason, our priority is not just economic growth, but inclusive economic growth linked to human development. We recognize that inclusive economic growth ensures that all members of society, particularly marginalized groups, contribute to and benefit from economic progress, fostering poverty reduction, reduced inequality, and sustainable long-term economic stability. This is the kind of economy we are striving to have in the Gauteng city region, and we believe that with sustained partnerships and collaboration with all stakeholders, this vision is not only possible, but inevitable. So, the program director had already indicated that the Premier of the province, the Honorable Panyaza Lusufi, will come and deliver the keynote address before he leaves. So it gives me honor and privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to ask the Premier of Gauteng province to come and address us. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, MEC Maile. Truly appreciate that. The program director, Keith, are you well this morning? So I'm missing your show for us. That's good. Thank you so much. I want to align myself to the protocol that has just been outlined. The reason being I have to dash to go and tee off at the leaf golfs, and my apologies for my dress code. At least I'm not in biking shorts for now, so you'll forgive me for that. Ladies and gentlemen, if we can't get Gauteng right, we're not going to get South Africa right. As the economic engine of South Africa, we have no choice as Gauteng to respond to the commitment that has been outlined by the 7th administration under the leadership of our Honorable President, Cyril Ramaphosa. And the priorities of South Africa are very clear. There are three. The President said to us, the first priority of our country is to grow the economy of our country. And by extension, you eliminate unemployment and create opportunities for everyone. Today, as a Gauteng government, we are the only province to say in growing that economy, what is it that we think Gauteng should do? Hence the plan that we're outlining. And I want to thank MEC Maile and the team for the hard work. The second aspect of the priority of our country is to fight inflation. That is the cost. And our approach as Gauteng is that cost of living and ensure that the cost of living is not high. Government must do what governments must do. Ensure that you offer quality public goods. Me and you, we know the reason why we have medical aid is purely because we don't trust public good that is called the health system. And that is why we've got medical aid. Me and you, we know the reason why we are taking our children to private education is because the public good that is public education, it's not there. Me and you, we know why we've got alarms, security guards, and all security doors is because the public good, that is the police, sometimes doesn't respond when you need their cover. Me and you, we know the reason why we're affected now by the war in the Middle East is one reason only. The price of energy or fuel will go up purely because the public good, that is public transport, it's not there. It is these issues that we believe as the Gauteng government that we must turn them around as part of our contribution to ensure that indeed we lower the cost of living in our province and by extension in our country. The third area that was outlined by our President as a priority of the country is to build the capacity of the state. That the state must offer certain services as the state, rather than strip off the power of the state and rely on third parties to render those services. You all know, and I'm glad that the editor of Business Day was saying that was born and bred here in our province or in our city of Johannesburg. And the first thing is what? It's potholes. Because the state does not have the capacity to fill potholes, we have to rely on third parties to fill those potholes. And after they filled that pothole, their business comes to an end. And when cloud starts to gather, the pothole opens. Even before the rain starts to rain, the pothole opens so that they can get business again. And we just have to build the capacity of the state so that we can do it on our own, so that we don't rely on third-party states. So these three priorities call upon us as the Gauteng government to respond to them. And by responding, we must put concrete plans on the table. And that is why I felt that even the golf can wait, so that we can outline to you the future of this province. We can outline to you the action labs that we believe will be the base and the cornerstone of growing the economy of Gauteng. MEC Maile has outlined 11 of them, but 3 are very important to us. We must be the home of innovation. We must be the home of new ideas. We must be the home of artificial intelligence. I always argue, Stone Age didn't end because that generation ran out of stones. Stone Age ended because new ideas were planted. We should position ourselves as Gauteng as the home of new ideas, the home of innovation, and the home of creativity. And therefore, ICT must be the cornerstone of everything that we need to do. And that is why we've managed to attract all best ICT companies to have their head offices in Gauteng, but more importantly to operate from our province. Managed to bring even the biggest data centers that have been built to start to be built in our province, so that they become the base of driving the economy of Gauteng. And the second area is infrastructure, and we're going big on this one. Because if we can't expand the infrastructure of our province, it will be extremely difficult for people to move around or for goods to move around. And therefore, the infrastructure development of our province becomes the key area in which we need to invest and position our province to attend to these issues. And for now, we've dealt with 3 of them. The first one, I know many people, when we said this, they thought that we were responding to public pressure. When we came in as the 6th administration before we migrated to the 7th administration, our argument was very clear. Our highways and freeways in the morning and in the afternoon, they're nothing else but parking bays. If you can't unlock that, we are delaying the economic growth of our province, which simply means we must broaden our roads, we must build new highways, and we must ensure that our road infrastructure can accommodate the movement of goods and the movement of people. And therefore, we had to take a very bitter decision to scrap the e-tolls. Even though national government didn't agree with us, we said to national government, we can't grow the economy, we can't expand our roads, we can't remove the parking bays in the morning, in the afternoon, purely because people are boycotting to pay these e-tolls. And we continue to pay the interest of the investment and the loans that we've acquired out of these e-tolls. And therefore, it's very important that we scrap the e-tolls. We are prepared as the Gauteng provincial government against the wishes of our people and against our priorities to swallow this bitter pill and ensure that we pay the e-tolls. So we're slapped with a huge multi-billion bill. We are glad that we are halfway. The good thing is that Sandral now can raise funds, and Sandral now is expanding, and we've settled the e-toll debt, and we're about to see new freeways being built in our lifetime. And that's the commitment we took as a provincial government. Against all odds, against the insults, against those that felt that this is the wrong decision, on the basis that these e-tolls are not Gauteng e-tolls, are national e-tolls, but we find ourselves here. The second area is rail. We are of the strong view that we need to bring rail at the center of economic development. We had a rail expansion in terms of the Gauteng, that the Gauteng has demonstrated that is an investment that can bring additional resources. When we started the Gauteng, we invested almost 26 billion. In 10 days' time, it will now be 52 billion handed over back to us. And we are taking that 52 billion, reinvesting it to expand the rail infrastructure in our province, to ensure that we can go to Roodepoort, we can go to Springs, we can eliminate the traffic here in 4 ways, but ensure that also the rail transport accommodate our people in Soweto, Atteridgeville, and other areas. We are also investing in 2 speed trains. The speed train to Limpopo, as MEC Miles indicated, Limpopo must grow towards us. Northwest, in particular Rustenburg, must grow towards us. Sasolburg, or here in Free State, it must not go to Bloemfontein. It must come to Vereeniging. Harrismith, which is a strategic center for logistics, because when you are in Harrismith, you are 300 kilometers from Durban, 300 kilometers from Bloemfontein, 300 kilometers from Johannesburg, 300 kilometers from Nelspruit. So Harrismith must grow towards us as a province. And therefore, it's very important that these logistical hubs are strengthened and given the necessary support, utilizing the speed train. And that speed train must move people and goods. It must not be about people alone. And that is why our decision to say the speed train to Durban must significantly pass through Harrismith before it goes to Durban, and the speed train to Limpopo must take care of Mosina so that we can be in a position to grow the economy of our province. We are looking at possibilities of growing also to that side. And the last area, which is very important beyond rail, is the agricultural component of our agro-processing. To us is the new economy. And if you check the Department of Agriculture, the work that they've done, and the areas in which they believe that they need to put some investment in, we are of the strong view that we will defeat hunger through Gauteng, and will take advantage of our positioning to penetrate the continent and take advantage of the Africa Free Trade arrangements that have been announced. So these 3 areas outlined our commitment to have an economic plan that works, an economic plan that responds to the challenges of our country, an economic plan that can reposition Gauteng to remain the engine of our country and ensure that it creates opportunities for everyone. So we are quite excited that you are all here, not only to share or hear our ideas, but to contribute to it, because we don't want to miss the mark. You miss the mark, the price is too hard to pay. So we need those that are in the sectors, we need those that are academics, we need those that are the implementers of this economic development to advise us whether we are on the right path or we've missed the mark, so that we can align as quickly as possible and ensure that everything that we do it with you. So MEC Maile outlined key strategic areas. We will share with you the strategic importance of the research that we have made and the path that we are taking, and the research that backs us up on the areas of investment. So the key thrust of this transformation plan, it's not to divert or to divert or to walk away from the transformation, modernization, and reindustrialization program that we launched in 2014. But South Africa, and the province of Gauteng in particular, faces structural constraints which call for structural renewal. And this is our plan to renew Gauteng. You get Gauteng right, we'll get South Africa right. You get Gauteng right, you will attract investment to the hub of our country, and those investments must create opportunities for all. I wish you well, and I'm looking forward to a debate and discussions. Let's get South Africa working, but most importantly, let's get Gauteng working. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Program Director Kathy, for bailing us out in the 11th hour. Maybe let me take this opportunity to greet all of you, and without wasting any time, I'm going to get into business by saying all protocol observed. I would like to thank MEC Maile for providing a great scene setting, but also to thank our Premier for providing a powerful context to our plan. So I've titled our presentation this morning as Executing GCR Economic Growth and Development Plan. And I'm going to quickly touch on those 4 key areas. Of course, starting nicely with introduction and ending with the macroeconomic impact of the plan if we implement it properly. I think Premier and MEC, they've articulated our problem statement. But what I would like to say is that we are not throwing our hands in the air. We have not given up. We've got a plan, and we think this plan can take us forward. The idea of the plan is to ensure that we are able to operate on the production possibility frontier. But we also like to make sure that we are not ending there. Through research, innovation, and development, we want to keep on pushing the boundaries up. In a simple terms, we'd like to make sure that we shift the production possibility frontier curve upward. Of course, our plan is not just floating in the air. It's anchored on these 3 priorities that Premier and MEC have eloquently articulated. So the plan is just not floating in the air, as I said. Maybe it's important to just give you a snapshot of this plan, what this plan about, before I can get into how are we going to execute it. The plan has got 12 pillars. These pillars are interconnected. These pillars have got about 4 cross-cutting pillars that the Premier and MEC talked about. I'm not going to go deep into these pillars, but it's important to say that our first pillar is the one that deals with industrialization. We need to make sure that we develop our sectors, we grow them, we make them more competitive. But we don't want to end there. We also want to make sure that we are able to attract investment to the province, both domestic as well as foreign direct investment. But the other important thing is also the issue of trade. We're a small country, we're a small province compared to the rest of the world in terms of population. So it's important to trade with the rest of the world. Of course, charity begins at home, starting with our continent. So it's very important to make sure that all these sectors that the Premier and MEC have articulated, they are firing in all cylinders, so that we have got our own products that are produced here that can be exported to the continent and the rest of the world. And that's why we have got a Gauteng Investment Conference. It's our dedicated, our focused approach to bring as much investment as possible. In our plan, we talk about 800 billion in the next 5 years of investment into the sectors. But it's also important to make sure that our economic infrastructure is up to scratch. Prima spoke about the rail, spoke about road transport, but we also have got need economic infrastructure in the form of special economic zone, in the form of industrial parks. We must make sure that they are functional, in the form of agri-parks. All this economic infrastructure, they build the capacity of the economy to produce future goods and services. So this economic infrastructure is tied to these sectors. It's tied to the first pillar. But you also need to make sure that there are skills in the economy. We must be concerned about the current skills that we need, but also think about the future so that when we get into the future, we've got the required skills. Of course, it's very important to take into account the issue of safety and security. Very important to make sure that investments, when we've attracted them, there's law enforcement. Where there's law enforcement, you are able to attract and retain investments. MEC also spoke about the GCR, the integration. So it's very important to make sure that our province is well interconnected with our neighboring provinces in the form of Gauteng City region. So these are the pillars that we are saying that across all these pillars, we need research and development, and that's why we're partnering with our universities. We need to make sure that issues of innovation out of research, the issue of digital transformation, issues of township economic development, very important. Of course, we know that if I have to put a face of unemployed person or a person that is affected most by poverty, it will be a young black female. So that's where the problem is. And I think if we can resolve that, we'll be able to move forward. These are the 12 high-priority sectors. These sectors are the ones that are going to help us to deal with the issue of industrializations. These are the sectors that must pump or fire in all cylinders from the first pillar. These are the sectors that we are trying to get investment in these sectors. These are the sectors that we want to make sure that currently we have got sufficient skills. In the future, we'll have sufficient skills for these sectors. We must make sure that these sectors, they stay ahead of the curve. We make them competitive, we make them productive to make sure that at the end of the day, the products that we produce can compete with the best in the world and are able to find their space in the markets internationally and locally. I will not waste time by going one-on-one on them because the Premier and MEC, they've articulated some of them. So these sectors are quite important to us because we think all these pillars, as I go to the Action Lab, you see that they are interconnected in terms of, they need to support each other in terms of economic infrastructure, in terms of skills, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of small business support, and all other aspects of the pillars. I'm not going to waste time here. It's just to show that this is what we call Gauteng City region. Of course, with our neighboring 4 provinces, with their centers in terms of economic centers. So this is what our plan is trying to address. We're trying to make sure that from the spatial point of view, all these 5 regions of our province, as I said, are firing in all cylinders, and we're able to get the dividends in terms of growth, employment, and issues of poverty and inequality. So how are we going to execute it? So we thought maybe let's touch briefly on the principle of execution. Because we've got this plan, it's beautiful, we believe that if we execute it, we'll be able to move forward. In each of those pillars that I spoke about, we've got clear catalytic areas. Areas which tells all of us that if we focus and execute and deliver on those catalytic areas, we'll be able to move forward. So out of these clear catalytic areas, we also have got clear deliverables with timelines as we move forward to make sure that there's clear responsibilities, there's accountability. From the provincial point of view, we are going to hold each other accountable through the Office of the Premier. We're also going to make sure that our municipalities are on board. And as I go to the next slide, you also see how are we linking the rest of government in terms of local government into the plan. It's very important to make sure that this plan becomes part of our DNA. We must live, breathe this plan every day in the sense that it's very important to make sure that in our APPs, whether you are entity of any other department in the province, whether you are local, whether you are provincial, we must see the footsteps. We must see that the plan is being taken into account. And I think all of us, when we engage at any other time, we must always be able to call each other to action. Of course, we can't execute this plan without talking about funding. But we know that the physical space of government is shrinking. And in the interim, we have to make sure that we bring private sector on board. Premier has articulated how, out of nothing, we managed to have a powerful asset like Gauteng through partnership with government. So we are saying that the physical space is getting smaller. Let's bring all partners on board. Let's make sure that the resources we have are allocated efficiently and effectively. So the key word here is about how do we optimize so that we get the most out of the little we have. I can't overemphasize the issue of intergovernmental multi-stakeholder coordination. This plan, even if you regard yourself as one of the best scientists in the world, you are not going to execute it on your own. You need all hands in deck, government, all spheres of government, including national, all key stakeholders that MEC and Premier articulated. But the last and most important principle is the issue of evidence-based monitoring. We must make sure that we've got a live dashboard, a dashboard that can be able to go to trace back to our catalytic areas, to trace back to our deliverables and timelines to see whether are we getting there or not. If we are not getting there, what steps can we take? How can we take corrective action to make sure that what we said we are going to execute, we execute? I must indicate that we are not naive to think that the terrain is flat. The terrain is quite complicated, but we are prepared through this plan to navigate it against all these headwinds. For example, you talk about Middle East now. You think about the price of oil. You think what would be the impact of this on our country and the rest of the world. But we are saying that at minimum, what we have in the plan and we said we are going to execute, we must just execute that. Because if you don't execute what we said we are going to execute, there's no way in which you can even talk about growth. Because the things that we said we are going to do, they're just a necessary condition for us to be able to talk about growth and development. So we think if we abide by these principles, we should be able to move. This is the first pillar of industrialization. This is where the sectors belong. This is where these sectors are going to make sure that they fire in all cylinders. You will see that we are also dedicating each of these pillars some of the leading execution lead. For example, with this pillar, we expect the Gauteng Department of Economic Development, Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, and Gauteng Department of Agriculture and Rural Development to lead in this space, to coordinate of us from local level up to national level, to make sure that these things that we are saying we are going to do in terms of these critical areas, we are doing them. We would expect them to our connector with even with the rest of other stakeholders. So each of this sector, they've got a dedicated action lab. That's where the strategies, the intervention will be cooked. That's where the responsibilities will also be assigned. But I'll also talk to that later. So here is clear, there's no confusion. Gauteng Department of Economic Development will be expected to lead in this space. We'll have to make sure that we touch base, for example, with economic development function at City of Joburg, at City of Tshwane, at Ikuruleni, at our 2 districts, so that we can converge on these sectors. Of course, there's no space in Gauteng called Gauteng province without our municipalities. So things are happening there. And there's no South Africa without provinces. So that's the essence of this. The second important slide, which is also aligned with our conference, we are going to have the second installment of the Gauteng Investment Conference this year on the 9th of April. This is just a focused approach of making sure that as much as we talk about these sectors, we need to make sure that these sectors are receiving necessary investment. These sectors are able to produce products that can be exported to the rest of the world. It's important for colleagues who are in these action labs to help the province to say, where are these investments? Where can these products go? What are the problems? How can we together co-create solutions and hold each other accountable to execute? So this pillar is very important because without this pillar, as we said, government fiscals alone are not enough. But I guess over time, as we get dividends out of this plan, government fiscals will increase. We'll be able to have more resources to even invest in other services, including economic development, and you can even get what you call a multiplier effect. So it's a vicious circle of making sure that things are moving. So I can't overemphasize this. So we've got our entity in the province called Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. It's our IPA, Invest Promoting Agency. One of their key mandates is to bring investment into the province. But we want them to bring investment in specific sectors that are going to grow our production base. I always say that it will be sad day when all of our products that we export to the rest of the continent are imported from other countries. So we must export homegrown products. And I think we are fit for purpose. We think working with all partners, we should be able to move the needle in this regard. Very important pillar, spatial transformation. As I said, currently, if you look at our 3 metros, they occupy at least 90% of the economy of Gauteng. That is not sustainable. We need to make sure that Westland and CDV are brought into the fore. And that's why we took a clear decision that each of these districts, each of these areas must have their own special economic zone. And I'm sure you are aware that we are at advanced stage in terms of VAL special economic zone. There will be public participation process before the end of the month. So we want to make sure that the Gauteng region is a well-integrated, organized economic unit that is, as I always say, is pumping or firing in all cylinders. Of course, that's why we take into account Limpopo, we take into account Northwest, we take into account Mpumalanga, we take into account Free State. We're also trying to work with them to become part of our special economic zone. But we can't be growing alone. For us to be able to grow faster and better is also to make sure that our neighbors are growing so that all of us, we can have benefits. So this pillar is going to look at the issues of for example, the CBDs. We need to make sure that our CBDs are clean. They get back to the old glory. They attract investment. Can be place where people can live and work. We also need to make sure that our townships are not only becoming just consumption centers, but also become productive centers. And that's why we talk about the concept of township enterprise zones. And we're happy that even national GTIC, they're getting into this space. We know that mining is still powerful, but over time it's a finite sector. So we need to converge, especially in Westland region, to make sure that this part of our province is part of the ecosystem. And we are saying, in this case, we've got the Department of Economic Development, we've got COCTA, Corporate Governance in the province, helping us to lead the space with the rest of the players at national level and in municipalities. A very important pillar. And of course, this pillar is also connected with other pillars. Very important pillar which focus on both economic and social infrastructure. You don't need only economic infrastructure to grow the economy. You also need social infrastructure. You must make sure that human settlements are designed in such a way that they support economic growth and development. We talk about economic zones in all areas of our province. We talk about transport logistics, which Premier eloquently outline how it is important to move goods and services efficiently, including people between provinces and even neighboring countries. The issues of energy, we need to slowly get into green space. We need to make sure that our environment is sustainable. You also cannot overemphasize the importance of digital era. We are getting into that space where this is becoming a very powerful economy. So this pillar is quite important. We expect the Department of Economic Development to lead on infrastructure together with our entity, Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. They are doing a good job. We've got also an automotive, as I said, functional. We've got Gauteng GIDZ at the Wartambo functioning. We'll very soon have got VAL AZ functioning, as I said. So we also expect DID. the department responsible for infrastructure in the province to also do their part. As I always say, we expect them to operate at optimal level. Because if all of us we are not operating at optimal level, it means that we are producing below our capacity. So we need to always be on the curve. But as I said, we don't want to only remain on the curve. We want to push the curve upwards all the time through all these activities. So a very important pillar from an economic point of view. Without this infrastructure, you can't grow the economy. Very important pillar again on environment. In this case, we expect our Department of Environment, MEC Botha is here, we expect MEC Botha to lead us working with working with municipalities. All these catalytic areas, we expect them to help us to execute them. When we check the APP, when the Prima's office check the APP of Department of Environment, we must see these things. If we don't see these things, then it means that the provincial government has approved a plan that we are not implementing. Then we must hold each other accountable on the execution. Of course, the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development also is expected to make sure that the production technologies that we have are getting towards sustainable economic development. We want to leave this world as a better place for future generation. They must not blame us when we are gone. But also the economy that is growing while it's not taking care of its environment is not sustainable. At different point in time, the curve will have to go down. We always talk about a decreasing rate of marginal returns. Very important pillar on entrepreneurship and small business development. We are saying that the problem of unemployment in this country is so huge. You can't approach it from the one-dimensional approach. You need multi-pronged approach to address it. We've got a lot of young people, as I said earlier, the face of disadvantaged in the country is young black women. So we've got a lot of young people who are not participating in the mainstream of the economy. We've got a lot of women who are not participating in the economy. We've got a lot of black people who are at the margins. But if we bring them in, then we operate on the curve. But we can't only focus on bringing them in through looking for jobs. Some of these young guys, they've got capacity to be powerful entrepreneurs. So we need to work with them, those who have got capacity, those who are interested, and hold them from A to Z in terms of non-financial and financial support to make sure that they become successful entrepreneurs. In that way, they create jobs for themselves, but they also create jobs for others. But while small businesses that are already there are also growing. So here we expect the Department of Economic Development, together with our Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, working with other DFIs in the country, in the province, to make sure that we move in this space. This one area, if we don't get it right, we are not going to grow this economy. I must also mention that the national government is at a point where they are approving national entrepreneurship strategy, which I think we are going to leverage on it as a province to make sure that our young people can become entrepreneurs that we can be proud of. That at the end of the term we can say, as Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, as Gauteng Provincial Government, we took them from scratch and now they're here, they're even exporters competing with the best in the world in the international market. Very important pillar that we need to converge on it. The issue of skills. We need to make sure that we have got skills now, but there will be new skills that we will need in the future. So those action labs, they also need, because the action labs, each of these sectors, they identify challenges in the sector, they identify opportunities, they also co-create solutions. Those action labs should also think, how do we bring more entrepreneurs in these sectors? How do we make sure that there are skills for these sectors? How do you make sure that as these sectors evolve and the new skills required going forward, how do you bring these skills? So This pillar is supposed to be connecting very well with the first pillar, but it's also supposed to be feeding into the work of Action Lab, but it should also feed into this to guide our Gauteng Department of Education, our Gauteng City Region Academy, as part of the skill development in the province. Of course, we expect them to work with universities, we expect them to work with our TVET colleges, we expect them to work with all and sundry who are interested in skill development. Without skills, you cannot be able to grow the economy, because if you don't have those skills, you have to import them. If you import them at a price. But while you import skills, while you've got people here who are not employed, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. So let's get ready. Let's make sure that these action labs are working. I can't really overemphasize the issue of building the capacity of state. The Premier eloquently articulated it. But I think for me, the point that I would like to add is that in all these action labs, if we are able to co-create solutions together, and government is part of that multi-sectoral approach, we are indirectly building the capacity of state. We are enabling the state to execute its function. But of course, we know that the state, as government, we've got convening power. We're able to bring all stakeholders on board to make sure that we deal with the problems of the day by having actions that we can implement and that we can hold each other accountable. So that's why we say here that the whole of government is expected to build capacity. National up to local level, all entities, is all our responsibility to make sure that we are fine. So this pillar also is very important. Civil security. In the province, we've got a 10-point plan in terms of dealing with crime in the province. Low crime, safety, it means that you can get people investing in the province, but you can also get people, you can get the economy working beyond 8 o'clock in the evening. Because, some people can work during the day, some can work in the evening. So you also deal with the issue of unemployment indirectly, but you are also putting more products into the economy rather than closing early. So the province is now piloting some of the 2 or 3 malls that will try to operate 24 hours. But we need to make sure that our subs, Department of Community Safety, together with our law enforcement at local level, they work together. So the Department of Gauteng Community Safety is going to coordinate us in this space. And we expect colleagues who are in the action lab that deals with ICT to also come up with innovation. What kind of new products that we can bring into the fore to improve safety and security in the province, and vice versa. Very important pillar, as I said. The next thing that I would like to briefly talk about is the issue of action labs. If we see the next slide, we are saying we have got 12 sectors. We have developed sector master plans. We know what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, what are the possible solutions. But we are saying that we don't have monopoly of knowledge. We want to bring everybody on board to work with us, to fine-tune, to get new solutions, to co-create. So we've established these 12 action labs. These action labs are not just government. They are industry-led, but we also have got the government also co-chairing this with the private sector. Everybody is on board, multi-stakeholder. We've intentionally decided to have this circle. This one up to 10, these are the pillars of the plan. These pillars of the plan, even though action labs primarily are focusing on pillar 1, which is about industrialization, which is about sector industry development. These action labs are also trying to open our eyes on how can we attract more investment, where can we sell our product, which skills do we need, how can we enhance our economic infrastructure. So all these sectors are interlinked. So the only way we can be able to optimize and get the best dividend out of these sectors is when we work in this manner. As as you can see, we talk about multi-stakeholder, we talk about action-oriented, clear actions, which will also talk to our annual performance plan, which will also find space in the departments, provincial department plans, which will also find space in the plans of our local municipalities, our district, as we are engaging with them. We've invited them. I've seen the executive director of City of Johannesburg here. I've seen the chief economist of City of Johannesburg. We've also engaged with our colleagues at Ikuruleni. We are also engaged with our colleagues in Swan in all 5 regions of the province. This is just to demonstrate how we don't claim that we have got a monopoly of knowledge, how we claim that together we can have the most powerful and impactful action if we work together as a unit. And this, I think, in the province was well demonstrated during the preparation for G20. So we need business there, we need academia. We say that we can't have universities that are just doing research for the sake of doing research. They must do research that solve the problems. When you do that PhD work, it must be focused toward dealing with the problems of the day. Things like TIA, Technology Innovation Agency, the Innovation Hub, they must work with this academia to make sure that some of this research, they become products that we can sell to the rest of the world. You can't ignore labor, you can't ignore communities, some sort of network approach, but with more of cooperation, collaboration, partnership, innovation approach. No one is a big brother, no one is a big sister, no one is a small sister, and so on. So it's all hands in deck. This is just for demonstration purpose. At the end of the day, we will have this dashboard for monitoring and evaluation. This dashboard will be flowing from those 10 pillars. This will also be flowing from the catalytic actions under each pillar, will also be flowing from each intervention and actions that are the responsibility of different departments, different entities, local and provincial, to make sure that we are able to assess whether we are moving or not and where are the problems so that we can troubleshoot. We'll get to a point where we'll be able to press a button and be able to see where we are so that we are able to hold each other accountable. At the end of the day, we said maybe what we need to do is also to subject this economic plan to economic modeling, to check whether are we busy with something beneficial or we are busy with something that is not taking us anywhere. So we subjected the plan to economic modeling, and our initial analysis is telling us that actually we are better off with the plan than without the plan. I think that's the first point. Irrespective of what the world economy will be like, irrespective of our domestic challenges in terms of headwinds, if this plan, we implement it as we are saying we are going to implement it, irrespective of what's happening around us, we will be better off with this plan than without the plan. These are some of the initial indication. From the economic growth point of view, if this plan is properly implemented, and probably even the world economy is kind to us, these are some of the extreme growth that we could have as a province, around 5%. But it also saying that all those things that we said we are going to do, are we doing them? So we need to really evaluate ourselves. In terms of real GDP, these are the figures that we can bring additional in the economy. So if you look at this slides, it's saying that in the absence of the plan, over the next 5 years, 8 years, business as usual, nothing happening, continuing in the current pedestrian approach, we can grow just below 2%. And then we know that it is not enough to grow our economy in terms of jobs, in terms of poverty, and stuff like that. But if we implement this plan from the baseline, we can be able to, at minimum, have 3%. We can be able to have 5.4% by the end of this term. But going far into the future, because this model is taking into account the fact that we are implementing this plan up to 2030. So that's why you see the figures in the outer years going down. But we can all see that we are better off with the plan than without the plan. So the plan in itself, however good it is not sufficient to give us economic growth and development in the province. It's just a necessary condition. The sufficient condition is for us to have all hands on deck as three spheres of government, as the private sector, as the different communities, as academia, saying that we've got a common problem, and this common problem working together in the way of collaboration, cooperation, partnership, and innovation, we can get out of the current economic quagmire. With these few words, let me, Kathy, Program Director, Program. And I think this is a way of leading us into the panel discussion for the panel members to help us on identifying different blind spots as we execute, because we have got the plan, we think the plan is good, we just need to be assisted with execution.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.